Okay, sure. So look at it like this. If human beings are the grains of rice on the speaker and the electromagnetic field around the earth is the speaker, I mean, is the frequency of the speaker, then that electromagnetic field around the earth is actually connected to all of the planets in the solar system and the electromagnetic field of the sun. Now, this comes into this idea of Saturn. Okay. And Saturn is a very strong presence, though it is not the strongest presence in the solar system, but it is a very strong presence. Now, through symbolism, right, we have been inundated with symbols for Saturn. And based on this idea of like what I was saying before about the multidimensional nature to our consciousness.
All right, now he's very new age, but keep in mind what he's saying is absolutely correct. And also, every planet puts off a particular frequency. This has been proven. Here's the picture there for your reference. But Saturn puts off a very low frequency. Keep that in mind.
What they are attempting to do is they are attempting to use the cymatic frequency of Saturn, almost like a metaphysical prison wall, to confine our minds, to confine our souls, and in one way or another affect the frequency of planet Earth. Because as we are all tuned into the Saturnian frequency, we are actually feeding the Saturnian frequency with our hearts and with our mind.
Oh my gosh, guys. So that is more that is more intense than you might realize. So you think of these evil people, these Satan worshipers that are putting off low energy when they do child sacrifice, for example. What are they doing? They're channeling a lower frequency, the frequency of Saturn, right? So think of this archetypically, symbolically, but they are channeling that frequency. And that frequency, Christians, obviously, myself included, associate that with demons, Satan. They're channeling that for a reason, guys.
If these people that worship Saturn are the ones in control of the legal system, they're the ones that are creating all this parasitism, dominance, war, predation, chaos, famine, disease, etc., then they believe these Satanists or Saturnists, these Saturnists, they believe that all of that pain, chaos, death, suffering, disease, famine, all of that is going to Saturn. It's all going to feed Satan. Okay, that it is a sacrifice to Satan. All right, and same thing with like the testimony of Zachary King
and let's go forward with this.
Wizard.
The Romans worship Saturn and a bunch of other gods, but that was their a basic Satan cult. And if you study what the globalists think today, they believe the planets, especially the gas giants, are interdimensional portals to which they send the energy. So they see Saturn not just as a god, but as a jump point.
Yes. So all of these planets are in one way or another cymatic vortexes of energy that are creating a field around them that is creating a very specific pattern, a cymatic pattern in space and time.
So basically, and the planets are like different keys on a piano, and they're just hitting the Satan panel constantly. Just boop, boop, boop. They're just hitting that tone.
Yes. Correct. And it's a very low frequency, like dong, dong. Tone. It's a very low frequency tone. Now, Jupiter is a very high frequency, and it's actually completely the opposite of Saturn. Saturn is Kronos. Kronos eats his children, and Jupiter is Zeus. And Zeus helped to basically rally the gods to defeat Saturn.
To defeat Kronos.
To defeat Kronos.
Okay. So.
Guys. Okay. So check this out. The planets, especially when they are viewed as the archetypal god representation, each planet puts off a particular frequency that we associate with a particular emotional state of mind, right? This is how we're connected to frequencies, okay? So don't think that the Romans necessarily, the intellectual, spiritual Romans, thought of those planets as literal gods. They gave the planets archetypal mythological personality that was associated with the frequency. That's why Saturn is associated with Satan and the horns of authority, like pay attention to me, I'll give you power. So these low frequency acts that people take in higher places are associated with that frequency. So that's why he is Kronos, the one that eats his own children. It's that low frequency of degeneracy and muck, while Zeus is at this higher frequency, right? That's supposed to represent the Godhead. We all want to attain that higher frequency but through our relationship with God, right? So this is really cool. It shows that they aren't really gods. They are given that personality to represent and help help the layman easily ascertain what those planets represent by their frequency.
When we look at ancient mythology, we can actually find that they understood this interdimensional stuff quite well. And when we get into this notion of like cymatic frequencies and the downloading of information into the planet, and this information encoding the electromagnetic field of the planet itself with data that we can then branch to in space and time, otherwise we wouldn't be able to create reality. So it's almost like the Earth is like a massive supercomputer, a massive supercomputer of sorts that is downloading massive amounts of information that we can then use and channel through our bodies to create specific realities within that space-time paradigm.
What
From the layman's point of view, imagine that as particular emotional state, particular way that we push forth reality through our perception, right? I'm personally a Christian that believes that we're something like a radio receiver, kind of like just like the Bible says, we are placed in heavenly places, our consciousness, and we're receiving that in our fleshly bodies, kind of like a receiver of sorts. The same way with frequencies. You know how some Christians will say evil thoughts are demons, low frequency thoughts, where's that coming from? This is that deeper conversation, guys, but it's easily the case that you can lose yourself to deception through this sort of esoteric new age occult type of wisdom. So you have to keep a good head on your shoulders, have a good orderly background, but there's some great wisdom here and understanding.